BBB.com. We are reformers. We're an organization among several others. Our business is to push reforms of systems that incarcerate people, to make incarceration sensible, and how the objective of incarceration is supposed to enhance the vibrancy, public safety, and the vibrancy of communities. So that's our business. And there are several different components of that business that helps people once they're released from detainment in a local jail or from imprisonment serving time in a county or in a state or federal prison. How do they return home? Systems today, for the most part, fail significantly at a thing called rehabilitation, right? They fail because a lot of it is pretty much living in an era long gone by. A lot of it is driven by intergenerational politics by design. But nevertheless, there are those organizations like mine that have to help people land as appropriately and softly as possible when they come out the experience of living in a carceral community over windows of time. How you readjust to the world, how do you readjust to family, how do you readjust to the demands of our economy and consumerism, and how do you do that in a way that keeps you from the inclinations to instinctively start to live desperately again. When we go to those natural inclinations, then the system is right there waiting to grab us in an aha, caught you again moment and throw you back into that vicious cycle. So that's what my organization does. And with that, I've also given you kind of an overview of what the justice system is. You have the courts, of course. You have the federal system of prisons, and you have the individual state systems of corrections, as they're called, but they're all state prisons. And then you have this county phenomenon and the city-to-city or municipal phenomenon of clusters of local jails. In New Orleans, there is the county prison combined with the functionality of what would normally be seen as a municipal jail. And it's called the Orleans Parish Prison, right? So that's an overview of what the justice system is and a brief statement about what my organization does. We have several programs, reentry program, a transformational housing program, and we have set onto the side several different projects. This is one of those projects that we manage as well, and our staff of the executive management staff has conceived, called Brilliance Behind Bars. Brilliance Behind Bars. Each of you are indisputably brilliant in your own space, such as the case with most humans. Brilliance, in the term, in a sense that we discuss brilliance, is all about a human's capacity and a human's potential. When you discover that you put a human in the right kind of learning environment and the right kind of enlightenment space, the human will instinctively develop toward that enlightenment. That in itself is brilliance, the instinctive act of leaning toward demonstrating your own relative brilliance. What goes untapped is the brilliance of people who live in carceral communities. And unfortunately, too many of those look like you and me. We intend to, with this idea of tapping in and looking for those nuggets of brilliance and reforming systems such that those systems look for and develop those levels of potential, otherwise described as the display of brilliance. We're insistent upon changing systems so that the whole process of corrections and rehabilitation highlights predominantly the enlightenment of an individual's mind as they matriculate through the carceral community. I'll stop there for any comments or anything else, Dr. Rice, that I might have omitted that should open up this conversation.
There is one other thing, if you can talk about, that would be good, and that is transformation and what you believe transformation is. Can you kind of define that for us?
Yeah, of course. So there's a moment in the life of a Morehouse student when you may not even openly discuss this with your peers or your parents or your family. But there was a moment. There are moments in the process of matriculation through a space, through an environment that is Morehouse, where you reckon with your evolving reality. So, where you are in a state of mind when you first find yourself in an 8 o'clock class as a freshman, there was a point when you realize it may happen later that year. It may happen not until your junior year. There's a point when you realize, geez, I am really driving the train here. I'm not really just responding to what my parents want me to do. So the way that you start to process where you are and start to process where you are in conjunction to things that are happening around you is a part of natural transformation within the context of systems. Every carceral community, every prison, every jail, where you see CNN News and all the other news items highlight and dramatize for entertainment purposes people living behind bars. I'm often asked, well, what's it like? How are they different? We should be afraid, right? And instead of trying to help them understand all the nuance that might be behind their individualized questions, I often say, living behind bars is like living in any community. You probably heard me use the term carceral community. And so in a carceral community, everything happens that happens in your individual community at home or the broader community in your city or town. People strive to get ahead. People strive to stay safe. People avoid people. People embrace people. People strongly pursue opportunities in the moment. People strive for a sense of power within the interplay of dynamics. All those things happen on your street, in your municipal community, or in your neighborhood. New persons come in, they got to kind of feel things out. But they're going to feel things out because they're not going to be overrun by their neighbors or by the power play among neighbors. They don't try to fit in and grow in that space and gain some, especially men, gain some sense of, I can display my own capacity to empower and powerfully protect myself. That happens in any community. There is no difference. There is even economy and industry. There's all that stuff. Status. All that stuff happens among those incarcerated individuals living in carceral communities.
Thank you. And let me also say, you all can feel free to interrupt at any time. If you have a question, go ahead and let him finish his sentence or let me finish my sentence, but go ahead and interrupt. If you're not comfortable interrupting, put your question in chat and we'll address it there. I'm going to explain now. Roland is the practitioner. I'm more of the academic type of person in our partnership. So I'm going to talk about the project that you all will be involved in here at Morehouse. So we did this last year. We had a pilot project last year. And we did it with the journalism class at Morehouse. We also had some Spelman sisters and also some one Clark Atlanta brother. So what we do is the essence of, we are first of all conducting a research project, a legitimate, rigorous research project. And so there are certain guidelines that we have to abide by. When we first started this, we were just going to come to Morehouse and work with them to interview alumni. And when we use that word alumni, what that means is a person who has been formerly incarcerated and who has taken courses, college level courses behind bars. They doesn't necessarily mean that they graduated with a degree, but they've taken courses behind bars. When we approached Morehouse, they also wanted to understand what impact this had on their students. So we created something unique that I don't think has been done anywhere else in the United States. And that is that we had students interview alumni, traditional students from the AUC interviewing alumni who had been incarcerated. Most of the time when research occurs, the people who are conducting the research are professionals. They've been trained, they know how to do it, etc. We decided that you guys will interview the alumni. We will provide you the questions. So the way that this will proceed is that this class is orientation, just to let you know, what it's all about. And then the next class, we're going to have a discussion. So we have some readings that we have assigned, or I'll show you them later on. So you're going to learn about the criminal justice system that Mr. Washington just explained about. Then we're going to have you practice the questions. You will get the questions when we next meet. We'll have you practice the questions with people who have been incarcerated and taken college level education. And then we're going to have what we call the gathering. And at the gathering, we have the gentlemen, the alumni, come in person, as many as we can. And you will come in person. That will be the last week of March. And we'll set it up so that you interview them. Generally, we have more students than alumni, so maybe it'll be 2 or 3 of you that will interview one person, and then they will in turn interview you. We call it the gathering because we have food there, and because people are interacting one-on-one, or however many. And then in the next class, we debrief, and we ask you what your thoughts were about it. And then finally, you create something. So in your classes now, your African American experience classes, you have to come up with, depending upon who your teacher is, you have to come up with either something written or something that whatever your particular professor wants you to do. For us, you can submit that as your assignment if you'd like, but you can also be as totally creative as you would like in terms of what you learned. There are 2 criteria that we use to look at what you did. Number 1, did you cover the subject topic, which is criminal justice? And number 2, is it provocative? Do you make people think in terms of what you did? That, in short, is this project. When we did this last year, because basically, really what you're doing is the interviewing, and then your assignment probably will coincide with whatever you have to deliver for that class. So when they did it last year, I think that gathering was I don't know if I should call it the turning point, but it was the point that was most impressive, that impacted the students more, because it's very interesting and usually transforming to hear about another person's life, but particularly a person's life who has been dramatic. It's the way I can explain it. But in turn, it's also interesting for you to kind of reveal stuff about yourself, because usually we're internal. And so now you're discussing with somebody who's kind of revealed some of their deepest thoughts, and it causes you to reflect on some of your deepest thoughts. And so for several of the students, many of the students, all of them were impressed, but for many, it was one of the best experiences they said that they've had at Morehouse. I hope the same is true for you. So that kind of summarizes the project. I'll stop there for a moment just to see if there are any questions that you may have. Let me add one more thing before I stop. There are two unique things about this project. Number 1 is that you students are acting in terms of doing the research, the actual, interviewing and research. But the other is that most of the men who are involved in this are Black. Most of the men who are in prison, or at least the largest group that are in prison, are Black. And so it's never occurred, number one, for an HBCU to do this, and number two, for Black students to do this. I'm not even aware of a group of Black men that have interviewed another group of Black men, but you guys are coming from one of the most elite institutions in the United States, and you're interviewing a group of people who have taken a very divergent path from yourselves. So isn't it interesting to think about why one group of people went this way and another group of people went this way? But even more interesting is that at the top, the two are converging because y'all are taking college level classes, and they've taken college level classes, and it has transformed how they think. That's what lies before us. That's what's on the table. And y'all are engaging in a unique project, and you get to earn credit from it. Any questions? To all the new ones who came on, hello. All right. So now let me talk about what it is we'd like for you to do for the next class, and then I'm gonna go to the technology part to show you how to sign on. So there are three things that we're asking you to read. One is this. It's called The New Jim Crow. We're not asking you to read the book, but there's a chapter in here called The Lockdown, and that's the chapter we'd like you to read. We will provide you with that chapter. The reason we assigned that chapter is because Michelle Alexander, who is the author of that book, and many of you may have already heard of the book, she gives you statistics, data, facts, evidence of how the carceral system transformed itself and jumped in quantum leaps in the numbers of men that are now behind bars. So that's an excellent chapter to read. I'm going to show you the other two. This one you can find at Fulton County Library. Let me share my screen. Okay. This is a video. It's a 4-part video that was taken of the Barred Prison Initiative. These are formerly, well, at that time they were incarcerated, but they were all in college level classes. So they broke it. It's a documentary that they broke down into 4 parts. We're asking you to look at part number 3, and I'm going to show you a snippet from there. But you get there by going to Fulton County Library. It's open to the public. There are 2 ways you have to get there. One is to go to the Fulton County Library system and then just put in College Behind Bars and choose part 3. That's here. The other way is that you can go to Canopy in Woodruff Library and put in, I'm not sure if College Behind Bars will get you there or the Barred Prison Initiative, but you will find a way to get to this. This is the snippet we'd like to show you. Well,
clear case that outlines the problem.
So this played for me a few minutes ago, but while we're waiting, let me tell you what this is about.
Dr. Rice, I apologize. Can you start that as opposed to where it started last evening at the very beginning that you and I observed at first, please?
You mean at the very beginning of this part?
Correct. This part 3, start at the very beginning, not where you started it last evening.
At the very beginning of the tape?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it takes a while to get to this part.
Yeah.
Okay.
We may not get to that part, and that's okay. I guess that's my point. I needed to speak with you about that, but it's critical.
Okay. And let me set this up by saying that one of the things they feature in this is the prison debate team. The debate team comes from all of these college students. This is a small college up in the northern part of New York State. And this particular day, they are debating a team from West Point. They have beaten teams from Harvard, from Princeton. This particular one is from West Point.
Being in prison for so long, I can't
Maybe I shouldn't enlarge this. Maybe that's the problem. Let me see if it'll play.
say the things that I experienced there are no longer part of me. In a little tent, oh, I'm just like the river I've been along ever since. I was on a train and this lady got on. She explained she was homeless and she was singing a song for us. And she sung Sam Cooke's, I believe, A Change Gonna Come. That was one song when I was in prison that I always felt emotional whenever I heard it. So she went through this beautiful rendition of Sam Cooke's A Change Gonna Come on Prison Act. The tears was flooding in my eyes. And when she finished, the first thought that came to my head was, I gotta get out of prison. Here I am standing on the A train, and the thought came in my head, I need to get out of prison. I have to remind myself, yo, you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Did you want me to stop there?
Keep going. That's good.
Stop here?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Okay, so that was a snippet from this part 3 of that video series. It is an absolutely fascinating series. I encourage you to watch part 1. That will introduce you to the characters. But this part 3 shows you, and I think the way that this guy opens up,
Something that I think a lot of us on the team like to do, to say you're wrong, we're right, and here's why.
Today's topic will be resolved. The United States federal government should nationalize the pharmaceutical industry. Bard will affirm this statement and West Point will negate.
So you want to stop it there, Dr. Rice?
Judges will determine a winner.
Dr. Rice,
yep,
you want to stop it?
okay. Okay. That's your second video that you should watch. And then your third video is about 6 minutes long. So I'm only just going to play the very first part of it. It's called the Stanford Prison Experiment. Some of you may have seen or heard about this. It's one of the most famous experiments that was ever held, or I really prefer to call it research. It came out of World War II, and people were trying to understand how Hitler had become so authoritative over Germany that they engaged in the type of activities they did. And so this was meant to explore authority, and they used it with a prison and with a guard and incarcerated person.
The Stanford Prison Experiment was released in theaters. The movie detailed the infamous 1971 experiment in which 24 college students were put in prison. Now, while the experiment was supposed to last for 2 weeks, it was terminated after 6 days due to psychological effects that it was having on both the guards and the prisoners. So what actually happened during the Stanford prison experiment? Why is it so infamous? And does the movie get everything right, or is it just a dramatization? This video will briefly explain the experiment, its impact on the world of psychology, and the controversy that it's facing 45 years in the future. So, first off, what?
I'm going to stop that there. So those are the 3 things that we're asking you to read. I got to bring this down. There we go. Okay. In preparation for what we will discuss in the next time we meet, which is 2 weeks from today. What's the next thing I want to bring up?
So Dr. Rice, you said those are the 3 things you want them to read. All 3 of those assignments you want them to actually complete, like actually viewing the entire part 3 of the 4-part Bard documentary. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Then you want them to read that specific chapter in Michelle Alexander's book.
Correct.
And then you want them to review the entirety of the animated clip that you just showed us, the animated
Correct.
feature. Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
And when we come back again, we want you to, number 1, have looked up some statistics and facts, some of which you can get from Michelle Alexander's book. We want to pose a question to you. And that question is going to be, should taxpayer funds support post-secondary education for the incarcerated? So for the money that you or your parents pay, should some of those funds go to support post-secondary education for people who are behind bars? You don't have to formally prepare anything. It's a question that we'll put out there, but we think based upon the readings and what you see that you'll probably develop some ideas, or you will have some ideas from your family, your community, or whatever. And we are ready to pose as the devil's advocate, no matter which way you take. But that's the question we'll discuss with you next week to help give you some background. Any questions so far? Okay.
So Dr. Rice,
Dr. Rice.
Yeah.
I might have missed it, but would that information be emailed or something? Or how do I seen one link come in the chat, but I didn't see the other videos link.
Okay, very good question. Yeah, there are about 5 links that have been posted. And Dominique, if you can post them again, just in case.
posted where?
In the
Posted?
chat for
That
right
have
now.
been put in the chat here. Okay.
Mhm.
Is there any other place where they will see the assignment?
We're going to send them to your professors. So hopefully your professors will put it on Blackboard and share it with you there. But we'll also send these links to you. We can email you through Bonner, and we'll email you these links as well. So there should be 3 ways that you get it. Number 1 is right here in chat. Number 2 is we'll email it to you through Bonner. And number 3, hopefully you'll see it in Blackboard from your professors. Okay. Good question. Any others?
Dr.
Okay.
Rice, if I may, I wanted to offer those who came on later, Brother Sly, if I'm saying that right, DJ Jordan and Quentin, if I'm not missing any others. I'm not sure if I'm capturing that. If you could, if it's not inappropriate, if it's not significantly inappropriate for you, to just click on it at least so we can see your face and meet you, and even if you can't stay on.
You mean you want them to introduce themselves and say why they're on?
Yeah, if they're able to do that, if they can hear me and click on, we can see their face at least for a minute, like the rest of the participants.
So Quentin, you want to go on and introduce yourself? And thank you all for showing your face. As I said earlier, we want you to show your face, preferably for the whole time, but if not for the whole time, at least show your face once so we can have a connection with you. Thank you. Go ahead, Quentin.
My name is Quentin Washington, from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My major in kinesiology. I'm here because my history teacher, Dr. Simmons, sent us a link told us about it, so I joined. I want to know more about it.
Excellent. DJ, Sly, I think is the last name. Do you mind introducing yourself? We will come back to him. Jordan Wise. Oh, he's not able to turn his camera on. Thank you for texting and letting us know that. Can you speak? Does your audio work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling us what class you're from, if it's AAE, and why you chose this service learning project?
Well, I'm the African American Experience Professor Simmons, and he sent the link earlier on today, letting us know that we can learn more about the community service project that we have to do later on this year, later on this semester.
Okay. You've got wellness here, but that's not your first name, is it?
Ma'am?
No, I'm sorry.
No,
Hold
my
on.
name's
I
Sam
thought
Gainey. Oh,
Sam, hold on. I'm sorry. Jordan, I thought you were done. Were you done?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I was going on now to Sam, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Sam Gainey. Parts of classes of 2013 and 2027. I'm a software engineering major and a leadership minor. I'm taking classes with Dr. McClinton and Dr. Jensen, and Mr. Washington and Dr. Rice did a presentation. So I actually have spoken with Rodney from the Bard Prison Institute. He visited us last semester. I'm trying to be an ambassador for next fall. Um, I'm doing some things to help unionize and improve the rights for folks that are in the federal penitentiary. So yeah, that's my interest in this project.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sam, real quick, spell your last name? Did you say Gainer? Sam,
Guiney, Guiney. I say again, Golf, Uniform, India, November, Echo, Yankee.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Before I go on to the technology part, Roland, was there anything else you wanted to say?
Oh, no, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, what I want to do now is just go through with you the technology of registering with Bonner. Bonner's relatively new to Morehouse, so some of you may know this, but even if you do, it's worth it to check it out. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to go step by step on how you register. Okay, so I'm going to start with getting online. And so you're going to go to the Bonner, the BBB, Brilliance Behind Bars, Bonner page. And the link is in the chat. Okay, this is the landing page for Brilliance Behind Bars. You know it's the landing page because they got their name there and my picture's over here. This also gives you a background of BBB, what we're doing, what our goals are, etc. The first thing you have to do, though, is to log in because they have to attribute, this is how you get credit for your hours. So they have to log in first so they know that it's you. So I'm going to click on login. If you're a Morehouse student, then you can click here, Servant Leaders Login. If you're not a Morehouse student, then you're going to click here, click for more options. I happen to have registered, so this is me, but if you haven't registered yet, you're going to click on sign up. And sign up is going to bring you to this right here. You're going to fill in your first name, your last name, your zip code, put in your email address, your Morehouse email address, create a password, and then click here on the agree to terms of service. I'm not a robot, and then click create account. I have to stop here because I've already created an account. So I'm going to go to already a member login. I saved my password, which I recommend that you do because it'll make it easier, and then log in. When you log in, if you're successful, then it should have your name up here. So it's, hi, Catherine, I'm in. Now, on your screen, this is going to say register. There's two places you can register. You can either register here or, well, it disappeared. So you'll see a green box here that says register, and you're going to click on that. If you already clicked on it and you want to change what you clicked on, then it's going to say what I've got here, update registration. So I'm going to click here. This is a list of all of our classes that we'll be doing as part of this service project. And the way we're doing it is that every 2 weeks, we will have 2 classes, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. It's the same class. It's just that some people can make it on Tuesdays, Wednesday. So we recommend, highly recommend that you sign up for all of the classes now. Let's say if you decide you're going to make it on Tuesday, then check every Tuesday class, because in order to get credit, you either have to pre-register or you have up until the end of the class to register. So if you wait till the class, then you may forget and all of a sudden the time is run out. Even if you cannot, yeah.
Sorry
Go ahead.
for the interruption, but when
Mhm.
I was registering, I had a question. I had registered for both of them because I wasn't sure what the difference was. But you see where it says assignments and deliverables due, and then assignments due to professors at the bottom for the Monday registration. I signed up for both of them, but I wasn't sure if we were just supposed to sign up for one or the other.
It's okay if you signed up for both. If in this case, let's say you signed up for this yesterday and today, right? Well, the one from yesterday is gone. Let's say you signed up for both. What we have to do on our end, and that is what Shenard is doing, and that's why you asked for your last name, is that we have to verify that you actually attended the class. And then we go back and we verify it with the system. That's why we need to make sure that you do register, and then we'll be able to tell who actually attended, and we'll fix the system that way. Ethan.
Hi, yes. I registered with my regular email,
Mhm.
but then after I figured out how to register my Morehouse email, I registered with that. So there's probably like 2 different ones for me under me. So how do I know which one I'll get credit for?
To be honest, we prefer to have the email that you use most often. And some folks have their Morehouse email, but then they have another email. I call it the preferred email that they use most often. For this Bronner system, you should use your Morehouse email.
Yeah, I use my Morehouse email and I registered for it, but I don't know if it's under your guys' thing, if it has like 2 Ethan Dennis's. So that's what I was like trying to figure out.
It's okay if we do, because we're going to go by your Morehouse email when we verify.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
okay, it's no problem. And if you signed up for 2 days, and that's fine. If you want to sign up for both days because you're not sure which one you'll be able to make, that's fine too. Because in the end, only the ones we verify are going to be the ones that go through. So go
Okay.
ahead and sign up for through the end of this semester that we'll be doing this. Sign up for all the ones that you think you might make. And if you're not sure, sign up for that class. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
that's a pre-registering that Dr. Rice is talking about. But what you just said just then is the verification is when you actually attend the class anyway.
Right. So sign up for all of these in advance. And I saw another question, another hand up. Did I answer your question or do you want to ask it?
I have one question, man.
Go ahead.
Are these sessions going to be recorded so we have a database to reference them multiple times? Or like, are they, you got me?
Good question. Yes, we're recording this session as is. So if there are people who want to go back and either revisit or they missed the class, then go back and
Exactly.
you can check it. If you do that though, we don't really have a system yet that captures if you go back and check it out. So if that you do that, let us know. If you,
I got you.
yeah, whoever
And my
watched.
concerns were like taking notes and things, but yeah, that makes sense too for flexibility. That'd be great. All right, thank you.
Okay. So when you have filled out all the ones you want, now these last two, I don't know if we're gonna have class on that day, but that's when your assignment is due. And I'll just let you know that in terms of your assignment, we are gonna provide feedback to your professor as to whether this was satisfactory or unsatisfactory.
This is your final assignment, not the other things that we talked about, and we call those assignments as well.
Right, thank you. And then on this last day, well, this shouldn't even be there. I think I'll remove this because this is when we'll provide our assessment to your professor. So then after you've completed all these, click continue. Okay, and this is your kind of final page. We have somebody that's waiting to be admitted. So on this page, shifts, thank you, refers to all of the ones you signed up for. So if you want to see, what you signed up for, you can click on that arrow. Who is registering is you. And is this registration on behalf of or with another organization? Click on not applicable because the answer is no. And then you're going to have two things here that's not showing here, but if you're just signing up, they will show. One is that it asks you to click a box that absolves this platform from having any liability. And then the second thing is a box that it has a consent form, because this is a legitimate research project that we're doing. And so just like this is why we're asking you to watch one of those videos on the Stanford prison experiment, because we do want you to understand what's involved in this and give your consent. And if you do not consent, then you cannot be a part of this project. And then you're going to click update. I had already agreed to those two things. And so I'm done. You're done when you finish that. I don't know if it will ask you to verify your email. I did have to verify my email, so I think it may do the same thing with you. But then all you have to do is just go back to your email address and click on the, verify email box, and you're done. This right here is the link for the BBB landing page. We did put that in your chat. If you need it again, let us know. Okay. There's one other thing I want to show you. And that is we are asking you to do a survey. I want to explain about the survey. This is the survey, and it begins with the consent form. It's the same exact consent form that's in the Bonner system, but some people have not yet signed up with Bonner. So if you take the survey first, then just click yes here, and then you can go on to the rest of the questions. But I want to explain about this survey. So many of you in research, there's different ways you can do your research. One of the popular ways that is done is what's called a pre-test and a post-test. So let me give you an example of what that means. Let's say you want to lose weight, right? Or let's say you want to build muscle. Well, you want to start off, let's say take the weight one, by understanding where you're at right now. So if you are at X number of pounds, then you want to know that when you start. So a person is going to take your body mass index, your BMI, they're going to put you on a scale, and then you'll know how much you weigh. Then we have what's called the intervention, like Weight Watchers, or maybe you just want to do a diet or something like that. After a month passes, you want to know, did that diet work? Does Weight Watchers work? And so the way you know is that you test yourself again. And if there's a difference between where you're at now versus where you were a month ago, then you know, and you lost weight, then you know that that works. That's what we're doing here. So we're asking you to take a survey. We're also going to ask the alumni to take a survey just to understand where you're at right now. Most of it is demographic questions, but there are some questions also about the incarcerated. So the link to that survey is also in the chat, and we'd appreciate it if you completed that within a week, but definitely before the next class. Was that understandable? Did that make sense? Great. And this is the part of the research project that we're doing. So we'll know whether or not we made a difference, whether this project made a difference. Any questions on what we've explained thus far?
I have one question.
Sure.
Will we be provided the link for the survey?
Will you what?
Be provided the link for the survey.
It
that you
is
just
in the
explained?
chat right now, but we're going to provide you when the 3 ways that, for those who came in late, there are 3 ways that we'll share with you. We'll do it in the chat right now. It's there. Second of all, we'll send you an email through the Bonner system. And third of all, we're going to ask your professor to post it on Blackboard for you. So you have 3 different ways that you can get this information. But it's there right now. The link to this survey is there. Were you going to say something, Roland?
No, okay.
Okay. And I saw somebody else raise their hand. Maybe that was their question. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now in the last few minutes that we have left is that I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Washington to close us out. I don't know if you want to close it out with a question or a statement, whether you want to talk about community or what, but I'll leave that up to you.
So did we clearly restate the research question?
No, we didn't.
It just dawned on me. Shannon, I don't know, Dominic. So here, this whole idea of educating people who happen to be incarcerated, there is a healthy debate about it. But what is not debatable anymore, gentlemen, is that once you expose, data shows that it has success in the whole process of rehabilitating and preparing a person to return home to communities, regardless of what kind of time they served in anybody's prison. The data is all out there. There is undebatable value to furthering the education, the enlightenment of humans while they're incarcerated. In fact, they are 43% less likely to live desperately enough after the fact of release to be reincarcerated again. The success is without debate at this point. Been studied, all kinds of published stuff out there all over the place. This research question doesn't entertain that up or down. This research question, with your help, gentlemen, digs into this question. How? Through what measures? What does the process look like internally to the individual's experience? How does post-secondary education transform the individual? So what's the magic of that formula? People will argue, well, you didn't get it when you were in 4th grade, 5th grade, 10th grade? How is it that you got it after serving 3, 4, 5, 8 years in prison? What happens to the mindset of the individual that helps them reevaluate in those moments, raise their hand and says, I'll try that post-secondary education program? And then what actually happens to them in the journey of preparing themselves for classes, realizing that they are taking college level courses and changing, therefore, how they present themselves, how they interrelate to everybody, including their family and peers, albeit from a carceral community. That's the research question, right? So there is an expressed need, broadly so, across states and across institutions throughout this country that have high expectations for what your work will reveal in answering that question. You'll come out with a formula. Dr. Rice, her research assistants, they'll come out with a formula. And the formula will present it in a way where it will be definitely evaluated in the context of how do we reshape education in general. So it's very critical, the embrace of your particular role in this phase of this project is critical. And you'll find, as part of the project now, that its impact on you will ultimately be critical to the findings as well. That's it, Dr. Rice.
Very good. It is now 7:58, so we have kind of used up the hour. Before we leave, are there any questions?
Can I get a restatement on the statistics that we need to look up for the questions?
I'm going to be very broad and allow you to look up any statistics that you can find on post-secondary education behind bars. Mr. Washington gave you one, and that is the most driving statistic that's out there is that for those who take post-secondary education behind bars, that they have 43% less chance of recidivating, and recidivating means going back to jail. So anything else you can find, we'll leave that open for you to find. If you read Michelle Alexander's book, she's got a ton of statistics in that one chapter.
So Dr.
Okay,
Rice,
thank you.
do the statistics have to be directly related to the field of educating or re-educating? Or can it be broader beyond that, that has some kind of connection to the subject?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Right.
You mean, does it have to relate to education?
Yes.
Yes, it should. Well, let me take that back. That's preferable because that's our topic of discussion. But if you find others, because in Michelle's Alexander's book, it really, she's not related to education. She talks about the field in general. If you get, that'll give you some sense of what we're talking about. For right now, we just kind of want to give you context. But education is, yeah, let me leave it the way I've got it. So preferably education, but it can be otherwise. Any other questions before we go off?